Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Europe is at war, not just since February 2022, but actually since 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea. That incident triggered a reaction in the former European Commission under President Juncker. It was decided to establish a defense fund to strengthen European defense industry and military capacities. We all know what happened later on, and as such, establishing the fund is almost prophetical. Calls are up this autumn for this funding scheme, and hence, I considered it a good idea to record an authoritative The Grant introduction to the funding scheme to help everybody that are working with proposals for these calls at this moment. I invited expert on the program Margherita Volpe, Research and Innovation Consultant, Security and Space Knowledge Area Leader at Zabala Innovation Consulting, into the virtual podcast studio to take us all through the program. The episode is divided into two. In the first part from last week, we covered the political and strategic background of the funding scheme and the structure of the program. In this second part, we dig into target group stakeholders, how to apply, the evaluation regime, what happens when funding is received, and finally, do's and don'ts. Please enjoy. The Grant. Thanks. Let's move on. I have put here, I don't know if it's relevant actually to take it as a separate target group stakeholders. Should we move directly on to how to apply? Because then we might touch on this anyways.
In terms of, target group and stakeholder, I can address it very quickly.
Yeah.
The Commission is highly targeting the participation of SMEs, of course, because Europe is having a lot of SMEs in the territory. They are typically agile and capable of innovating well. Mm-hmm. So it is supporting a lot the participation of SMEs. The basic consortium for a thematic project is should be composed by three organizations from three different countries of EU member states plus Norway. So in that respect, three, of course, is the minimum for eligibility, but we typically go higher. And the fact of having a bonus for mid-caps and SMEs participation in terms of funding gives you the idea that they are really fostering and promoting the participation of SMEs and small companies in this type of activities. But the European Defence Fund is open to any kind of organization, so research ones, big companies, of course, they are very, very present also in the projects that have already been funded. But SMEs are really a core target for this program.
Now you mentioned earlier that it's not that it's actually quite broad. You also went through the different areas, which were quite diverse. Do you have it a little bit like in Horizon Europe, where you have sections on? I'm just paraphrasing over Horizon Europe, right? So you have civil society elements, you have engagement at the local level, or is there anything sort of a sort of equivalent to that, where you say, okay, we have the hardcore development of subsea warfare, but we want to make just brainstorming. So, but we also need to make sure that they don't pollute the environment. I just no, but do you know what I mean? Do you have these kind of calls where you put sort of additional elements in?
Well, it is always foreseen, and it is highly important to highly promoted the transfer of civil research and innovation results inside the defense sector.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot go as broad as to do civil society consultation on the requirements of specific ammunitions or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not as horizon in that sense. But for sure, there are topics that promotes, for example, greening the fuels or the energy that is used.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, so there you would have organizations that would typically be in those kind of projects that would be involved because of their knowledge within sustainability, or like of a facility or energy efficiency measure, stuff like this. So that's what I meant.
But here we are speaking more probably about research organization or SMEs very specialized in those kind of developments. It's not about public consultation of the entire society. This is unfortunately not possible at
no, but that I understand. It was more to get an idea of how they are spreading out the coal taxes. They are framed quite strict. It sounds like it's framed quite strict, so to say.
It is. Yeah. It is. There is the structure is a little bit more complex respect to Horizon Europe. So you have a first part. Let me get back to it. So you have a first part that is dedicated to the objective. Then there is a specific objective and scope. Then the type of activities that are exactly eligible inside this specific topic, and then the functional requirements to be addressed. So there are exactly you will find a highly detailed what the Commission is targeting and what it is expecting by applicant to address. So if there is a requirement, for example, in terms of improving energy efficiency or the capability to predict some climate changes and their impact on the field camp, then you have to comply with that, and you have to find the partner that can take care of this kind of activity.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think this one is pretty clear. Let's just move on because there's enough to talk about moving into how to apply for this, right? And here, Margherita, sometimes when I have these introductions, we end up saying, look, we will have a specific episode on how it is to write a proposal. Mm-hmm. We can run through the sort of the basics. So let's just look at it, how to apply for this. So proposal types, number of partners, so on and so forth. So can you take us from the top?
Okay. So first of all, there is this annual work program and the description of the topics. So you go through it and you, let's say, identify something that is really in line with your developments and what you are targeting to do. Once you identify that, you, as I was mentioning before, you really need to read it and assimilate well what are the intention of the European Commission and what are the targets. Then, apart from the text of the topic, you need to consider what type of activity it is. If it is a research activity, or if a research action, or a development action. And depending on that, you will structure your consortium accordingly. Mm-hmm. All the topics, except from the one on disruptive technologies, are requiring a minimum of 3 partners from 3 different member states or Norway. So you need to start to define your consortium considering this basic requirement. Then consortia that I've seen ranged from 10 to more than 20 partners, depending, of course, on the scope and the amount of money that are allocated mm-hmm. to that topic. The description of the topic indicates also whether one or multiple proposals will be financed. So you need to decide strategically whether to apply or not. If there is only one project that is expected to be financed, either you have the strongest consortium, mm-hmm. or I would highly discourage you to apply, because it's a big effort to put together a proposal.
Is it written in the call text how many proposals are being? Okay.
yes, there is a document that is that contains the description of the call. So it is a PDF document. I always prefer to look at the PDF original rather than the funding and tender portal. Of course, there are all the information on the funding and tender portal, but I prefer, and if I may give a bit of, I would suggest always to look at the PDF documents because there are more information, more details available therein. And there, inside this document that is called Call Topic Description, is an annex. There you will find each description of the topic, including the amount of money foreseen for each proposal and the number of proposals that are being financed. For example, it may say the Commission consider that a contribution up to 20 million is foreseen for this specific topic, and below there is written several proposals may be funded for this topic. It means that it is more than one. In other topics, it is written directly, only one proposal is expected to be financed. Well, once you have have all these considerations, especially, of course, you can start to draft your concept. And when you have your concept, I would say you need, if you are targeting a development action, you need straight away to contact the member states that needs to endorse your project, because as I was mentioning before, for development actions, we needed to have the endorsement of at least 2 member states that agreed on the harmonized requirements for this project. So this, of course, might take some time, depending on.
And if we pause it a little bit, how is it with time from idea to submission? Is it you say so you have there's a cycle of 1 year, right? So there's a call going on. So,
I can reply to that.
You know how early do you, because I know this and you know this, and people who are not grants consultants out there, we can share with you that we cannot start early enough when you build consortia. And my best guess, Margherita, is that you would like to start even earlier than you would with a Horizon Europe proposal with something like this, because you have some requirements here that is a bitch to get through as a process. Yeah, that is where things are a little bit out of your hand.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you have a window to do that.
Yes.
When do you start? When is it possible? If you only have a year cycle.
So you have the call description, so the topic description available. This year we had them available since March.
Yeah.
Typically, it's always more or less the period, so you should start then to familiarize with the topics and try to do.
Is it like Horizon where you can squeeze it out and get it in for Christmas?
What do you mean?
You get a draft program before it's.
No. It's much more strict than Horizon Europe, of course.
Okay.
So the leakages are much less.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay, so any grants consultant out there, you have to pay closely attention to what we're talking about now, because this is very important. Okay, so you get it's released in March, and then the deadline is.
Then the actual opening of the topics. Opening for submission. So the first moment in which you can submit your proposal is June. So there is this window between March and June in which you cannot apply, but you can start to familiarize with the topics, and you can start to define your project idea and define your partners and so on. Of course, this window applies to those of us that are so lucky to have only one proposal to write or a few proposals to write, because if you are working on other Horizon Europe proposal with the deadline in April, this window allows you to familiarize a bit with the topics. So what I've seen is that most of the companies start to address and take seriously the realization of a project between May and June in any case. But this still gives you time, because then the deadline for submission is on the 22nd of November. Is always at the end of November. It was actually at the beginning of December during the first call.
We have 8 months.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot of time, but still.
No. That's my assessment as an old grants consultant. If for something like this, you need. I would have.
You might need more.
Yes, but how is it?
Well, in my direct experience, I have. Maybe I was lucky, but I've always come across coordinators that had quite clear ideas in mind. Mm-hmm. Also, because typically, at least my direct experience was with coordinators that were companies. So they had already a plan on what they would like to do. They were more oriented toward achieving the result rather than a research organization that might spend more time in defining the research lines and there are many research lines that they would like to pursue because it's their job and it's absolutely fair. I have the impression that this program is more led, let's say, by companies that really have a clear idea of business behind it. They wanted to realize something, so they are more direct to the straight to the point.
Don't you think it's because it's the characteristic of the sector?
Yes, absolutely. It has been dominated by Thales, Leonardo, and other big organizations.
You cannot be a successful company within this if you are a little bit, flying around like this. It has to be super strict. The technologies they're developing, it's very, it's not just we made a mistake here and there, then we go. It is there is a different level of of accuracy and
accuracy, yes.
It because it has very dire consequences if you're not in the market, if you're not accurate, and it's very simple. If your stuff kills people, the wrong people, then you're not in business. It's very simple.
Not only that, there are also ethical concerns, of course, that needs to be taken very seriously. And here, of course, there are big players and big names that are playing around the European Defence Fund. They have a way of working that was dictated by years of working with the public administration, so they know how be effective in this sector. Still, again, the fact of having bonuses for participation of SMEs forces these big players to melt and mix up with some less known and less traditional players, of course. So, but you have to be still very effective, very focused on what you present and what you prepare.
Sure.
But still, there is time to apply. And if the thematic topics might be more led by big companies, where there are one or two projects to be financed, the open topics are really open. And so an organization that is at his first attempt in the defense sector, but has a very clear and disruptive idea and proposal, can have real chances to win and to get their proposal financed. So I really don't want to pass the message that this is a closed sector. There are opportunity to participate also for newcomers with good ideas.
Looking a little bit at is there anything that's not funded? As you're like, is there a large element of exclusion, so to say? We fund this, but we do not fund this. How?
No, it is specified in each topic what they want to finance. So per se, I would say that there is no major exclusion of specific activities. In terms of, if I don't know if this was a little bit the idea of your question, but in terms of eligible cost, we have a structure that is very similar to the Horizon Europe. So we have personal cost, subcontracting costs, that have a cap at 30%, not a strict cap for all the topics, but if you go beyond 30%, you need to justify strongly why you need more than 30% of subcontracting. Then you have purchase cost, other cost categories like the internally invoiced goods and services, and then the indirect costs. So these are the things that can be funded in terms of costs.
And I guess you have a lot of the equipment costs can be quite heavy.
Absolutely. And you have to develop also the final prototype, the final equipment. It is not that you are buying something and transferring it to the defense sector. Equipments are for buying pieces and bits, and the final solution is for you to develop.
All right.
Good news is that as in Horizon Europe, there is a substantial pre-financing that the companies receive before starting the project implementation, so to really support their activity and not go below.
When do they receive the first block money?
Before the starting of the project, like in Horizon.
Okay.
So in terms of application, because before we were speaking about how long does it take, for example, we have 3 parts. So the first part is part A, like in Horizon Europe. So there you will have to indicate the general information about the project, the type of participants, and ethics-related questions. You have to reply ethics-related questions. And you have the technical description. That is, and here there are 2 peculiarities. It is a 100 pages document tagged. So a little bit like life proposals. So you have the strict boxes in which you have to write inside.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not my fault. No. Again, and then another thing that I particularly find enjoyable is that you have to submit the proposal, the technical proposal. You have to upload it in the funding and tender portal as a zip file encrypted, and you have to send separately the password to the European Commission. So it becomes a little bit more tricky, but it is justified by the fact that we are speaking about defense-related developments.
Sure.
And highly sensitive contents, possibly.
But important information here. So this is of course important that if you are thinking out there to attack this part of the funding world, there are some elements here which on security. Is there also elements on security in relation to the partners? Are there some sort of elements they have to submit information about the company that is more strict than not just sending a CV, but some is there security clearance about?
Not exactly security clearance, but you have to show that you are the ownership that I was mentioning before. So
yes, of course. Yeah,
this is the part that is more relevant, and especially if you are in a borderline situation, because maybe you are partly owned by a third country company, you might be subject of a lot of checks. Let's say.
And how is it? How do they the formal documents that they have to hand in? What are they? Are they?
There are some annexes that needs to be uploaded, and this depends on the type of topic as well. If it is a research or a development action, if it is only for SMEs, or if it is more open. So apart from the budget, that is the typical annex to be uploaded, then you have a participant information, co-funding declaration, co-financing declaration, harmonized capability declaration, that is the one for member state, and then declaration of procurement intent, ownership and control declaration, and something about the space in case your project is related to space. But there is a document that is about the ownership and control declaration. This is the initial declaration and then of compliance, and then should there be doubts, you might be requested to provide additional information at the granting phase, like it happens in Horizon Europe or other kind of categories of checks. So it is important to read really well the PDF documents that was associated with each topic in the funding and tender portal, because there you have the specific checklist of documents to be annexed in your proposal.
Yes, and it is, of course, a baseline of this podcast show when I have guests in where we talk about how to apply for different funding schemes. It's you like always need to read it, or if you have a consultant, the content someone has to read exactly what you need to do. And even though you might be used to have done it before, read it again, because there might be some extra stuff, or there might be some asterisks here and there where you have to refer to policy documents or mapping, all sort of plans from the Commission side, whatever.
Exactly, and this is why we have a real job to do there, to really be the most informed about the topic and the requirement of the European Commission, and we have to reread and download everything again, because maybe some changes with respect to the previous years have been applied to the templates, for example, of the description. So it's really our job to be those guide for the technological partners that needs to focus on the quality of their technological solution. And we are there as consultants to guide them in the administrative part and in the application form, in order to make it as easier as possible. We are specialized in this, and it is our job to facilitate the life of the clients, so that they can really make the most out, they can really present their technologies at best, rather than focusing on understanding the formalities. We are the filter to try to help understanding the formalities.
Just thinking about another security aspect, Margherita. How is it with you when you, as an external, help a consortium? Are there any specific security measures on how you save the information about the project on your...
No, the Commission is not asking anything like that, but we are typically, whenever needed, and whenever requested by the client, very willing to sign non-disclosure agreements for guaranteeing the full confidentiality of the information shared. And most typically, I would say, we also help to try to store the information appropriately, or we adapt and we do all the passages and process needed to enter in the systems of the client and use directly their system for storing information.
Because this is a real issue, right? It's not just a project on developing a sensor that can sort plastic, or a technology that can clean a lake. This is something really sensitive that you would actually have hackers actively going after this kind of information, right? Trying to find weak holes where to find this kind of information if they realize. So it's, I guess your client, no, but this is what you need to deal with when working with this, right? So, and I guess as a consultant, you step into that room. Your clients, they are fully on top of this.
Yes. And mostly our clients, the coordinators especially, have already, at least so far, those that I had the pleasure to work with, had already been working in the defense sector. So we have been using their repositories because they were already having security clearance or specific security measures. Of course, each of us as consultant has an organization behind, and that is providing cybersecurity solution, but relying on the clients' repositories, for example, for those clients that have already been working in the defense sector, is facilitating a little bit our life.
Yeah, and they have to. Yeah, it's simply for them, it's life and death. So actually, in a very direct, yeah.
Yes, whenever they work with the European Defence Agency, for example, for direct procurement, they need this kind of security measures, as well as when they are working with the national authorities. Probably they have already been requested on this kind of systems to be in place.
Are there any other elements in relation to how to apply?
No, I have already mentioned that it is a 100-page proposal, so it is longer than an Horizon 1. And in terms of contents. We have 7 more chapters respected to Horizon Europe. So we are covering excellence and potential of disruption, innovation and technology development, competitiveness, contribution to the autonomy of the defense sector, the autonomy of the European defense sector, creation of cross-border collaboration, life cycle efficiency, member state cooperation, and implementation. That is the typical work packages part.
Yeah.
Here, something to mention is that management is, of course, a work package that is foreseen. Dissemination, communication, and visibility is foreseen, but of course with several restrictions depending, related to the nature of the program and the sector.
So work packages, is that like in life where it's sort of set in stone, your work packages, or can you shape your work package structure? You have what you just mentioned, but can you how is that?
Okay, so basically you have to be consistent with the type of actions that are requested by the topic. So you can structure your work packages with the titles that you prefer, but you have to clearly indicate what type of activity you are addressing per each work package.
Okay.
And you have only one type of activity that can be associated to one work package. So one work package will be design. The second work package will be also design activity in terms of activity type.
Yeah.
Then you might have, for example, another work package that is prototyping, specifically dedicated to prototyping. So you really need to associate the work package to the type of action.
Okay.
Because based on this, it depends the funding rate that you will have on that work package.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's complex.
Yeah. Yes, I get, because it's more. Yeah, that's one thing. But then when you sit and do the budget, that you then you have different funding rates for the different activities.
Depending on the work package, yes. Each work package is associated with a different type of funding rate.
That sounds fun when you do the budget.
It is. But it is. I mean, there is the template given by the European Commission. You have to follow that, and but for sure, it calls this type of structure call for more reasoning at the beginning. So, in the definition of the work packages and the structure of your project, the better you ideate it from the beginning, the easiest it will be the entire work for the proposal preparation. If you are changing every now and then the type of work packages, you will end up changing also the work the budget part and the funding rate and everything. So you cannot afford to change everything until the last day.
That's what I'm thinking. That was my thought. Exactly this. That the more complex these things are, the more nightmarish it's gonna get when it gets busy the last 2 weeks.
Maybe, and I will be provocative on this. Our job is to educate the client to this kind of model. So we need to define in advance and then work to describe this kind of idea or concept that we have fixed at the beginning. And luckily enough, being the defense sector more strict per se, the clients follow these kind of structures.
That helps a lot. No,
it's less creative than Creative Europe for sure. But also the sector is different.
On that note, evaluation.
Yes, of course. So the criteria are excellence and potential for disruption, innovation and technological development, competitiveness, contribution to the autonomy of the sector, creation of cross-border collaboration, and implementation. So basically it follows the categories of the chapters that are foreseen in the technical part. There is no minimum passing score per category. So you can get very low in one category and very high in another one. So there is no minimum threshold per category, but there is a minimum total score that is 30 points. The maximum that you can get in total, the maximum if you do the best in each criteria is 45 points. And some criteria are weighted more than others. So you really need to give more attention, for example, to the path of excellence, innovation and technological disruption, and so on.
You have some. It's a little bit Horizon Europe on speed. You have some elements here. So now we just got the budget. It's complex,
you said and then speed,
you have the budget, which oh my goodness, and then you have this evaluation regime where Horizon Europe, it's simple, right? 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. 3 sections, maximum. It's. So 1 point is not always 1 point here. Some 1 point is heavier than other 1 points.
Yeah, exactly. But this is similar to what happens in life proposals, in which some categories, some criteria are weighted more than the others. And here it is the same. Some of the criteria have a double value because this reflects also the value for the European Commission of those criteria, what it is, how important it is to foster cross-border collaboration or excellence and disruptive technologies.
So that's the score system and the categories. But so what? How long do they have the evaluators from sent over until? Has the Commission given itself a hard deadline like they have in other programs, or how's that?
They have longer periods. So the proposals were submitted in November, and the results arrived in June. So almost 7 months of evaluation. This was recurrent also from the previous poll. So 2021 and 2022. The peculiarity is that they are not published directly on the funding and tender portal, but there is a separate areas where it is the fact sheet of the program of the funded projects are published. But basically you submit through the funding and tender portal and you receive the typical communication of the funding and tender portal. You are ready for the grant agreement.
At least they've done that.
Yes, at least. And then you have the typical coordinators day, in which all the coordinators are invited to have a more clear focus on what they will be expected to do and so on. From then on, it is quite similar to the grant agreement process of Horizon Europe. And you get guided also because the Commission understands that it is a newer program, that support is needed and guidance is needed. So if you win, you will not be abandoned.
What is the support system from the Commission side on this? Have they got a secretariat that is accessible where you can? How is that? Is it the NCP's job, like with Horizon, or how is it?
Yes, there are NCPs that are national focal point actually, and that are also those organizations that you started to contact when you need to have the endorsement for the development actions.
Oh yeah, how does that actually work?
You contact the national focal point. There is a public list of who are the national focal point per each country, and you present your proposal. There are in Spain, for example, there are fixed terms in which you will have to submit the proposal idea for getting the support. But this can be very different per each country. Imagine a smaller country where there is a more direct communication between a company and the ministry. Yes. A peculiarity is also that recently in these years we have seen that the national focal point is not only a ministry, but there is also an industrial counterpart. For example, the association of the players of the defense, the industrial players in the defense sector of a certain country. This is to facilitate context, but also to bring the industrial perspective in the discussion for the definition of the topics on one side, and also the discussion on the definition of the project to be endorsed. It's not a requirement, but is a trend that we are seeing more and more second that focal point per country that are defense industry oriented.
On the evaluation, do they get a evaluation summary report? Is this the same system? Like
yes,
yeah,
it's exactly the same system as in Horizon Europe. So you receive a PDF with the specification of the values that you have received per each category under evaluation. And you also have the explanation of what has gone very well or what has gone very bad.
Mm-hmm. Did you win any?
We as Zabala, yes. We supported the writing, or we participated also. And so far, all the proposals that we have been supporting were financed. There were not so many, nice. Because we have been starting small, but luckily enough, and with the hard work of my colleagues, they were all financed. The one that we either accompanied or directly wrote the proposal.
Good. No, that's nice. Congratulations to that.
Thank you very much.
Moving in, is anything else on evaluation?
No, nothing that I would like to remark in particular.
No, right. So I have here when funding is received, when receiving funding, the process to the grant agreement process, is that similar to Horizon Europe?
Yes, it's similar to Horizon Europe. You will be requested to proceed to the grant agreement preparation. Everything is managed through the portal, and as mentioned, there will be a coordinators day in which the Commission is giving support and help on how to proceed on this process. Then once you have completed the grant agreement preparation phase, you can start the project. And there is a pre-financing, as I was mentioning before, typically 55% of the project budget. And then there are reporting periods, typically of 18 months. And this brings me to mentioning that the project may have very different durations, exactly depending on the scope and the budget. So I've seen projects of 2 years, typically the bottom-up ones, the smallest one, where you wanted to develop something in a more agile and quick way, and projects that have a longer duration, over 50 months, so more than 4 years. For bigger projects, because they need more time for qualification, for testing, and so on. So over this period, you will have a reporting period, typically every 18 months, and then you will have a final report as it is in Horizon Europe.
Consortium agreement, stuff like this, same?
Yes, same things, and is negotiated.
Lots of IPR issues?
Yes. Yes. But maybe for this, we would need an entire different meeting, let's say.
Yeah. No, but it's there's always room. I would like to invite you for talk about project implementation. Maybe combine proposal preparation, project implementation. But we can discuss that, because it's too much to dig into these kind of things, right? But
it's also our job to guide the organizations in this job.
Exactly.
In details.
This is an introduction. Anything else about what is typically? So you said 7 months.
for the evaluation. Yes.
And then what? Another 2-3 months before they start. So a year.
Yes. But no, it might be even quicker. But yes, typically you could consider 1 year.
10 months or something like
10
this.
months, something like that. Yes.
Are there anything specifically because of these security issues, something like this, when the funding is received? Are there any things again they have to check, or I don't know?
Not that comes to my mind to mention at this point.
All right.
Also because they are very detailed in terms of application already, so you have made an effort at the beginning to specify clearly how you will handle the project, how it is relevant, how everything, how the partners are committed, how the fact that the partners are not from owned by other companies or other organizations from third countries. So you have done a lot the preparation phase and the application phase.
We're slowly moving towards the end here, Margherita. It's always a heroic work in these funding scheme introductions. Now, I have here do's and don'ts.
Mm-hmm.
So, like core tips of what to do and not to do. It's probably just going to be a resume of some things you already mentioned. But are there things that you would say, do this, but absolutely don't do this?
Again, do this is read the topic and really go along with the expectation of the European Commission. It is still a competitive sector. There are a lot of applications that are received, so don't invent yourself. Don't get to the last minute. It is really something that you need to prepare with due advance, not to be scared, but really need to prepare consciously with due advance. So the do is be proactive, try it, transfer the result from the civil application, from the civil research and application to this sector because it's highly encouraged, especially mention if something has been developed in the civil sector and for the civil sector. What are the achievements that have already been proved in the civil sector? This will be highly relevant for the Commission. So do that. Show what you have done in the civil sector and how this has already been useful. Do not invent yourself or try this adventure last minute because it's definitely not the program for trying it.
Nice creative ideas.
Exactly. If you are in mid of October and you come out with a brilliant idea, better to wait for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I would never try this in 1 month and with no partners.
The Grand. We're almost done now. The last segment that I have in all my episodes, the toughest challenge. What is it? The toughest challenge, working with EDF?
Well, I would say defining appropriately the consortium, also because some organizations are less familiar with the defense sector, might be more reluctant. They might need more information before launching themselves in this kind of adventure. And as you mentioned at the beginning, sometimes the content, the subject matter itself is a subject of ethical concerns for some organizations that are used to work only in the civil sector. So this is the challenge, to really bring innovation inside the defense sector, bring actors that are more in the research and innovation area and are less familiar with defense, bring them to be part of this schema and to really work together to develop new solutions. So this is, I think, the challenge. To open up a sector that has been traditionally quite close and restricted to the typical users.
And this is actually a nice bridge towards a next episode on this, talking about how it is to build up a proposal. For this. So it's of course can't share details about the content, that's obvious, but the what do you say, the craftsmanship of the grant preparation for this particular funding scheme, that would be nice to do that. And you can consider if you want to do it yourself, or if you have anyone that can come together with you, if it makes sense. It only if it makes sense, right? But I would say it would be very nice, at least for you, to come around again to share exactly on these elements, because we, of course, don't have the time to talk about these things, how it is to develop all the different elements to go from the basic idea to submitting a proposal, which is quite special. Quite special for this one, as we can all get an idea from what you shared with us. So that's an open invitation.
Thank you. But if I'm just give a little bit of hope, once you start to put your hands on the work, it becomes easier. Maybe it's more difficult to explain, and in words you don't appreciate. It's difficult to get, and it seems a lot of scary things to do. That's it. But when you start to do it, is less complex than what it seems. It has its complexities for sure. You need to be well informed and so on, but then it's not impossible. Absolutely. And I really want to pass this message that it is feasible. It's totally feasible.
Yeah, but I guess for grants consultants that has been working with these things for some times, it's this is what we do, right? You know, we put ourselves into what do you need to do to deal with this, and then explain it, translate it to the client and to the group. Say, look, this is what it looks like. We have to do this and this and this. So it's our job to understand, and also if it's sometimes complex.
And my impression was that the knowledge that we had internally about other type of funding schemes helped us to be more effective.
Sure.
So we, as we were saying along the conversation, there are some similarity with the LIFE program. There are some similarity with, I don't know, for example, the Connecting Europe Facility schema that is very industrial oriented and so on. So we have built our expertise also thanks to the knowledge of these other programs.
Yeah, that's again another element where it's nice to have a big company, because you always have someone that has experience for something that you can draw on, right?
Yes.
Margherita, last question that I've started to throw in to my episodes is a guest of if you should think of a guest that you would like to listen to or hear sharing anything on this show, is there a particular subject or particular person, maybe even organization that you would hear share?
Yes. From my perspective, it would be extremely interesting to listen to the evaluators of the European Defence Fund. It is a new program, so it would be interesting to listen to them and the kind of feedbacks that they might share from their experience. Of course, every evaluation is individual and specific, but there are, of course, some recurrent trends that happens. Also in the interaction with the European Commission, in the reading of the proposals, what are the most annoying things that they have come across with, and so on. Because, of course, it's interesting to learn how to better shape our proposals. So someone who has already been evaluated in the European Defence Fund would be extremely interesting to listen.
You're not the first one that mentioned evaluators.
Sorry,
they are it shows something, the importance of the role they have. So yeah.
Yes. And typically, as we all know, they are doing these kind of activities on top of their ordinary job. So it is also a challenging activity and an activity on which we as consultants, we try to write at best, so to facilitate also their reading. So I would like to hear the do and don't that they would recommend in order to make a proposal that is easy to read for them and effective.
Yeah, but I will see what I can do in my some desktop research to identify someone there. So thanks, Margherita. We are done. Thanks. I'm just going to land the plane of this episode before we say goodbye to the listeners.
Okay.
So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. As always, it's a pleasure for me to do these episodes. It comes from the heart. It's still a spare time initiative that I do with great pleasure, and you can probably imagine from having such conversations here that it's indeed something that is giving me a lot back. There's a lot paid back to me from this. So I hope that you take advantage of that out there. If you do have sympathy with this, please, by all means, go to my website, thegrand.eu, where you will not only find now a quite large back catalog of content and episodes. I have almost 70 episodes now with this one. And that, of course, means that there would be content for most of you guys out there. There you will also find a facilitating site I call The Hub, where I try to share links to supportive, like where you can be guided on to prepare proposals or specific things like this. I will also put up the site of the European Defence Fund in relation to this episode. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to, if you want to follow the flow, get into the heat, so to say, you have to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where the action happens. So connect with me in there, Niels Tudor Winter. You'll find me. I'm the only one in the world named Niels Tudor Winter, so it should be easy. I try to share everything I can that's related to grants and funding. And then I would say to anyone out there, I actually forget to say this, but the road to the grant is short. So if you yourself sit and think, but I have this to share, or that's an interesting conversation, but I have another element that I would like to reach out with, reach out to me, because I'm always looking for interesting guests. With an interesting point of view, and it can be anything. So don't hold yourself back. That's the nature of this initiative. It's just me, but that's also mean that there's a short way to getting on board. So, no, Margherita, it took a while to land that plane, but it's like this. Thanks for coming around. It's been a pleasure. And well, let's just say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.